A Werewolf Shifter Romance, written by Amelia Hart. Chapter 1. Echoes in the Wild. The October sun hung low over the Cascade Ridge Trail, painting the forest in shades of amber and rust. Hazel Morrison adjusted the strap of her camera bag, her boots crunching over a carpet of fallen leaves as she made her way deeper into the woods. This was her favorite time of day. That golden hour when the light turned everything magical, when shadows stretched long, and the world felt suspended between waking and dreaming. She had started the hike at 2 p.m, chasing the perfect shot of a red-tailed hawk she'd spotted circling near the trailhead. 4 hours later, she was still here, captivated by the way autumn transformed the national park into something out of a storybook. Her Instagram followers loved this kind of content, nature raw and unfiltered, and Hazel took pride in capturing moments that made people stop scrolling. At 26, she had built a modest but loyal following of 45,000 people who appreciated her eye for detail. Photography was not just her profession. It was her sanctuary, the one place where she felt completely herself. No expectations, no small talk, just her and the wilderness. The trail began to darken as the sun dipped below the ridgeline. Hazel checked her phone. The screen showed 6:30. She should have turned back an hour ago, but she had been chasing the light, always chasing the light. Now the forest around her was settling into twilight, the trees becoming silhouettes against a deepening blue sky. She picked up her pace, following the marked path back toward the parking lot. The trail was familiar. She had hiked it dozens of times, but something about the encroaching darkness made her more aware of every sound: the rustle of something small in the underbrush, the distant call of an owl, the whisper of wind through pine branches. Then she heard it, a howl, long and mournful, echoing through the trees. Hazel stopped, her breath catching. Wolves were not uncommon in this area. The park rangers had mentioned sightings, but she had never heard one this close. The sound seemed to come from somewhere off the main trail, deeper in the forest, where the old growth stood thick and untouched. Another howl joined the first, this one higher pitched, almost melodic. Then another and another, until the air was filled with a chorus of voices that did not sound quite right. Hazel had heard wolves on nature documentaries, had listened to recordings online, but this was different. The howls had a pattern to them, a rhythm that felt deliberate, almost like a song. Her photographer's instinct kicked in. She pulled out her phone, opened the video app, and hit record. The screen glowed faintly in the dimness as she panned slowly, capturing the sound even though the camera showed nothing but darkened trees. The howls continued, rising and falling in waves, sometimes harmonizing in a way that sent chills down her spine. It lasted 2 minutes, maybe less. Then, as abruptly as it had started, the forest fell silent. Not the comfortable silence of nature settling into night, but something heavier, as if every living thing was holding its breath. Hazel lowered her phone, her heart pounding. She replayed the video. The audio was clear, those strange, haunting howls captured perfectly. Her fingers hovered over the screen. This was incredible footage. Her followers would lose their minds over it. She typed quickly, her thumbs flying over the keyboard. What kind of wolves sing like this? Caught these bizarre howls in the forest tonight. Never heard anything like it. Nature is wild. She added a few tags: wilderness, wildlife, mystery, and hit post. The video uploaded as she hurried back toward the trailhead, her phone lighting the way. By the time she reached her car, the post already had 37 likes. Hazel drove home through winding mountain roads, the radio playing softly as her mind replayed those howls. There had been something almost human about them, something that made her skin prickle with an awareness she could not name. She shook her head, trying to dispel the unease. They were just wolves, probably a pack communicating across the territory. Her apartment was on the 3rd floor of a modest complex on the east side of town. Nothing fancy, but it was hers. She unlocked the door, dropped her camera bag on the couch, and headed straight for the shower. The hot water washed away the day's dust and sweat, but not the memory of those howls. Wrapped in a towel, she checked her phone again. In the short drive back from the trailhead, the video had already exploded past anything she was used to. Thousands of views climbing in real time. Comments stacking so fast the notification banner never cleared. Buried between the usual jokes and armchair biologists was one that snagged her attention, written in stiff, formal English beneath a username she didn't recognize. Interesting breach, Vale. The phrasing and the capital V lodged under her skin, too sharp to be dismissed, but exhaustion dulled the edge. She ordered cheap takeout, scrubbed through the footage long enough to pull a few clean stills for her portfolio, and tried to pretend the uneasy prickle at the base of her skull was just adrenaline and not a warning. By the time she crawled into bed, it was past midnight, and the video had already rocketed into 6 figures of views. Hazel woke to the sound of her doorbell ringing. She groaned, rolling over to check the time on her phone. 7 a.m. Who the hell was at her door at 7 a.m? The bell rang again, insistent. She dragged herself out of bed, still wearing the clothes she had slept in, and padded barefoot to the door. She peered through the peephole and froze. A man stood in the hallway, tall and broad-shouldered, dressed in a dark coat that looked expensive even through the distorted lens. His face was striking, sharp cheekbones and a strong jaw. Dark hair perfectly styled despite the early hour. He looked like he had stepped out of a business magazine. He looked like Dominic Vale. Hazel's brain stuttered. Dominic Vale, the billionaire CEO of Valecore Industries, the man whose face graced the covers of Forbes and Entrepreneur, was standing outside her apartment. That could not be right. She blinked, looked again. Still there. She unlocked the door and opened it a crack. The chain still engaged. "Can I help you?" His eyes met hers, a startling shade of gray-blue that seemed to see straight through her. "Miss Morrison? Hazel Morrison? That's me." Her voice came out steadier than she felt. "And you're Dominic Vale." A flicker of something crossed his face. Surprise, maybe. Or approval. "I am. I apologize for the early hour, but I need to speak with you." "May I come in?" Hazel hesitated, every instinct screaming that this was surreal. "Why would a billionaire CEO need to talk to me at 7 a.m? It's about the video you posted last night." His tone was calm, but there was an urgency beneath it, a tension in the set of his shoulders. "The one with the howls. It's important." Her hand tightened on the doorframe. "Important how? Please." His eyes held hers, and there was something in them. Not a threat, but a plea. "I can explain, but not out here." Against her better judgment, Hazel closed the door, unhooked the chain, and opened it again. Dominic Vale stepped into her small apartment, his presence immediately making the space feel smaller. He was even more imposing in person, well over 6 feet, with a controlled grace that reminded her of a predator. "Nice place," he said, though his gaze was already scanning the room, taking in details with the same intensity she used when framing a shot. "Thanks." Hazel crossed her arms, suddenly self-conscious about her messy hair and rumpled clothes. "You want to tell me what this is about?" Dominic turned to face her fully, and she noticed the faint shadows under his eyes, as if he had not slept. "The video you posted. The howls you recorded. Where exactly did you film that?" "Cascade Ridge Trail, in the national park." "Why?" "Those sounds, they're not what you think they are." He chose his words carefully, as if walking a tightrope. "They're part of a private ceremony, something related to my business. The location of that recording is sensitive information, and now that it's online, it could create serious security issues." Hazel stared at him. "Security issues? They're wolf howls. They're more than that." His jaw tightened. "There are groups, competitors, people who would use that information against me. I need you to delete the video." "Delete it?" She pulled out her phone, unlocked it, and opened Instagram. The video had 200,000 views now, and the comments section had exploded. It's already been seen by 200,000 people. Dominic's expression darkened as he leaned in to look at the screen. She caught a scent, cedar, and something wilder, like rain-soaked earth. He scrolled through the comments, his face growing more severe with each passing second. When he reached the one that said, "Interesting breach, Vale," he went completely still. "Who is that?" Hazel asked. "What does that mean?" "It means," he said slowly, "that someone very dangerous now knows exactly where I was last night. And because you posted this, they know you were there too." A chill ran through her. Are you saying I'm in danger? Potentially. He handed the phone back to her. I'll pay you to remove it. Name your price. Hazel bristled at that. I don't want your money. But if what you're saying is true, if people could actually get hurt because of this, then fine. I'll delete it. She opened the post settings and hit delete, watching as the video disappeared from her profile. 200,000 views, gone in an instant. Thank you, Dominic said, and he sounded genuinely relieved. I know this seems extreme, but trust me, it's necessary. Trust you? Hazel raised an eyebrow. I don't even know you. Fair point. He pulled a card from his coat pocket and held it out to her. This has my personal number. If anything unusual happens, anything at all, call me immediately. She took the card, the paper heavy and expensive between her fingers. You really think something's going to happen? I hope not, Dominic said, but his eyes said otherwise. But if it does, I'll make sure you're protected. Protected. The word hung in the air between them, loaded with implications she did not fully understand. Hazel wanted to ask more, to demand real answers, but something in his expression told her she would not get them. Not yet. Okay, she said finally. I'll call if anything weird happens. Dominic nodded, already moving toward the door. He paused at the threshold, looking back at her. For what it's worth, Miss Morrison, you have a good eye. That video, it was well shot. Then he was gone, the door clicking shut behind him, leaving Hazel standing in her apartment with more questions than answers. She looked down at the card in her hand. Dominic Vale, CEO, Valecore Industries. And below that, a phone number written in neat, precise handwriting. Hazel sank onto the couch, her mind racing. Nothing about this morning made sense. A billionaire showing up at her door. Cryptic warnings about security threats. Comments in foreign languages about a video of wolves howling. It felt like she had stumbled into someone else's story. She picked up her phone and scrolled through her contacts until she found Owen. Her younger brother answered on the third ring, his voice groggy. Do you have any idea what time it is? It's 7:30, Hazel said. And you're not going to believe what just happened to me. She told him everything. The howls, the video, Dominic Vale appearing at her door like something out of a fever dream. Owen listened, and she could hear him waking up properly as the story went on. Wait, Dominic Vale? The actual billionaire? Yes. And he came to your apartment personally? Yes. Hazel, that's insane. Why wouldn't he just send a lawyer or something? I don't know. She rubbed her temples, feeling a headache building. He said the video was a security risk, that dangerous people might come after me because of it. That sounds paranoid. That's what I thought. But Owen, he seemed scared. Not for himself, for me. There was a pause on the other end of the line. Do you think you're actually in danger? I don't know, Hazel admitted. But he gave me his personal number and told me to call if anything unusual happens. Okay, well, be careful. And maybe keep your doors locked for a while. I will. She smiled despite herself. Thanks for not thinking I'm crazy. Oh, I definitely think you're crazy, Owen said, but his tone was affectionate. But you're my sister, so I'm contractually obligated to support you. Just promise me you'll be careful. I promise. After they hung up, Hazel sat in the quiet of her apartment, turning Dominic's card over in her hands. The rational part of her brain said this was all an overreaction, that nothing was going to happen. But another part, the part that had heard those impossible howls in the forest, whispered that she had crossed a threshold she did not fully understand. Outside her window, the morning sun climbed higher, indifferent to the strangeness unfolding in the world below. Chapter 2. Shadows and Secrets. 3 days passed, and Hazel almost convinced herself that the entire encounter with Dominic Vale had been some kind of elaborate fever dream. She went back to work, editing photos from various hiking trips, responding to client emails, and posting carefully curated content to her Instagram that had nothing to do with mysterious Howls or billionaire CEOs. But on the third night, everything changed. Hazel was working at her favorite coffee shop, a cozy place called The Grind that stayed open until 10. She liked the ambient noise, the smell of espresso and pastries, the way the dim lighting made her feel productive. Her laptop was open in front of her, Lightroom displaying a series of sunset shots she had taken at the lake last week. She had been there for 2 hours when she noticed him. A man sitting 3 tables away, nursing the same cup of coffee he had ordered when she arrived. He wore a gray hoodie and kept his head down, but every time Hazel glanced up, she caught him looking at her. Not casually, not the way strangers sometimes make accidental eye contact. He was watching her with an intensity that made her skin crawl. Hazel tried to shake off the paranoia. She was being ridiculous, letting Dominic's warnings get into her head. The guy was probably just zoning out, staring into space, and she happened to be in his line of sight. But when she packed up her laptop at 9:30 and headed for the door, the man stood up too. She walked quickly down the sidewalk toward her apartment complex, her keys already in her hand. The street was well lit. There were other people around, but her heart hammered in her chest anyway. She risked a glance over her shoulder. The man in the gray hoodie was following her, maintaining a distance of maybe 20 feet. Hazel picked up her pace. So did he. Her apartment building came into view, and she practically ran the last block, swiping her key card at the entrance and slipping inside before the door could fully close behind her. Through the glass, she saw the man stop on the sidewalk, his face still hidden in shadow. He stood there for a long moment, then turned and walked away. Hazel took the stairs 2 at a time, her breath coming fast. By the time she reached her 3rd-floor apartment and locked the door behind her, her hands were shaking. She was overreacting. She had to be. But Dominic's words echoed in her mind. If anything unusual happens, call me immediately. It was being followed unusual, or was she just being paranoid? Hazel poured herself a glass of water and tried to calm down. She turned on every light in the apartment, checked that the windows were locked, and sat on the couch with her phone in her hand. Dominic's card was still on the coffee table where she had left it 3 days ago. She did not call. Instead, she texted Owen, keeping it casual. Hey, weird question. But if you thought someone was following you, what would you do? His response came back within minutes. Are you okay? Did something happen? I'm fine. Just being paranoid, probably. Hazel. If you think someone's following you, call the police. Or call that billionaire guy. Didn't he say to contact him if anything weird happened? She stared at the text, chewing her lip. Owen was right, but calling the police felt like an overreaction. And calling Dominic felt like inviting more strangeness into her life. I'll be careful, she typed back. Doors are locked. I'm fine. Don't worry. Too late. Already worrying. Text me in the morning. I will. Hazel tried to sleep, but every sound in the building made her jolt awake. Footsteps in the hallway, the rumble of pipes, the distant slam of a door. By the time dawn broke, she had maybe 3 hours of restless sleep. She made coffee, strong and black, and was halfway through her first cup when her phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Miss Morrison, it's Dominic Vale. Her grip tightened on the phone. How did you get this number? You posted it on your professional website, he said, and there was no apology in his tone. Have you noticed anything unusual in the last few days? Hazel hesitated. Why are you asking? Because I've been monitoring online activity related to that video, and there's been increased interest from sources I don't trust. I need to know if anyone has approached you. There was a guy, she admitted, last night at the coffee shop. He was watching me, and then he followed me home. Silence on the other end of the line, heavy and charged. When Dominic spoke again, his voice was controlled, but she could hear the steel beneath it. Did he try to make contact? No, he just stood outside my building for a minute and then left. Where are you now? At home. Stay there. I'm sending someone to check on you. Wait, that's not necessary. But he had already hung up. Hazel stared at her phone, frustration warring with a creeping sense of dread. She did not want to be the kind of person who needed protection, who had mysterious men watching her building. She wanted her normal life back, the one where the most stressful thing was meeting a client deadline. 20 minutes later, there was a knock at her door. Hazel checked the peephole and saw a blond man in a dark jacket, his posture military straight. He held up an ID badge. Miss Morrison, my name is Tobias Grant. Mr. Vale sent me to ensure your safety. She opened the door, keeping the chain engaged. How do I know you actually work for him? Tobias pulled out his phone and dialed, A moment later, Hazel's phone rang, Dominic's number on the screen. She answered. "Tobias is my head of security," Dominic said without preamble. "You can trust him." "This is insane," Hazel said, but she unhooked the chain and let Tobias inside. He moved through her apartment with practiced efficiency, checking windows, examining the door locks, scanning the street below. When he finished, he turned to her with an expression that managed to be both professional and concerned. "Mr. Vale asked me to do a sweep of your building's security. I found evidence of forced entry in the basement storage area. Someone broke in last night." Hazel's stomach dropped. "What?" "Your unit appears untouched, but several storage lockers were opened. Do you keep anything valuable down there?" "Just some old furniture and boxes." She thought for a moment. "My external hard drive. I had a backup drive in my storage unit because I was worried about fire risk." Tobias's expression darkened. "We should check." They took the elevator to the basement, Hazel's heart pounding the entire way down. The storage area was a maze of chain-link cages, each one assigned to a different apartment. Hers was in the back corner, and the moment she saw it, she knew. The padlock had been cut clean through. Tobias stepped forward, his hand moving to something under his jacket, probably a weapon. "Stay behind me." He opened the cage door carefully. Inside, boxes had been rifled through, their contents spilled across the concrete floor. Hazel's old camera equipment, winter clothes, books, all of it disturbed. And in the corner, where she had left her hard drive in a protective case, there was nothing but an empty space. "They took it," she whispered. "They took my backup drive. Was there anything on it related to the video?" "Raw footage, yeah. I always keep copies of everything I shoot." Her hands clenched into fists. "Why would anyone break in just to steal that?" Tobias pulled out his phone and took several photos of the scene. "We need to file a police report, but I'm calling Mr. Vale first." He stepped away, speaking in low tones. Hazel stood in the cage, staring at the chaos around her. This was not paranoia. This was real. Someone had broken into her building, violated her space, stolen her property. And it was all because of a 2-minute video of wolves howling. When Tobias returned, his expression was grim. "Mr. Vale wants you somewhere safe. He's concerned that whoever did this might escalate." "Escalate to what?" "To approaching you directly. The coffee shop. The man in the gray hoodie." Suddenly it all clicked into place, and the fear she had been trying to suppress came flooding back. "I can't just leave," Hazel said, even as her voice shook. "I have work. I have a life here. Mr. Vale is aware of that. He's asking for a few days, just until he can resolve the situation." "Resolve it how?" Tobias met her eyes, and there was something in his gaze that reminded her of Dominic. A weight, a knowledge of things she did not understand. "By dealing with the people who are threatening you." Hazel wanted to argue, to insist that she could handle this herself. But the truth was, she had no idea what she was dealing with. And the thought of staying in her apartment, waiting for whoever had broken in to come back, made her feel sick. "Where would I go?" "Mr. Vale has a private residence outside the city. It's secure, isolated. You'd be safe there." "For how long?" "A week, maybe less." Hazel looked around her apartment, at the life she had built here. Everything felt fragile now, like it could shatter at any moment. She thought about calling Owen, about telling him what was happening, but what could he do? He was a 22-year-old engineering student, not equipped to handle whatever this was. "If I agree," she said slowly, "I need to contact my brother. He'll worry if he doesn't hear from me." "We can arrange that," Tobias said, "but the communication will need to be secure. No calls that can be traced." "You're serious about this?" "Mr. Vale doesn't take chances with people under his protection." "Under his protection." The phrase made her feel both safer and more trapped. "Okay," Hazel said finally. "Give me 10 minutes to pack." She threw clothes into a duffel bag, grabbed her laptop and camera, and left her apartment feeling like she was walking out of her own life. Tobias waited in the hallway, patient and watchful. When she locked the door behind her, she wondered when she would see this place again. The car waiting outside was a sleek black SUV with tinted windows. Tobias opened the back door for her, and Hazel climbed in, her duffel bag clutched in her lap. The interior smelled of leather and something else, that same cedar and earth scent she had noticed on Dominic. The driver pulled away from the curb smoothly, navigating through morning traffic. Hazel watched her neighborhood disappear through the window, replaced by the commercial district, then the highway leading out of the city. "Where exactly is this residence?" she asked. "About 45 minutes north," Tobias said from the front passenger seat. "It's on private land, very secluded. You'll have everything you need, except my freedom," Hazel muttered. Tobias glanced at her in the rearview mirror. "I understand this is difficult, Miss Morrison. But Mr. Vale has your best interests at heart. Does he? Or does he just want to contain a problem he accidentally created?" "Both, probably," Tobias said, and there was a hint of amusement in his tone. "But that doesn't make you any less safe with us." The city gave way to rolling hills, then forest. The highway became a 2-lane road, then a private drive marked by a discreet sign. Vale property, no trespassing. They wound through trees for another 10 minutes before the house came into view. Calling it a house was an understatement. It was a sprawling modern estate, all glass and stone in sharp angles, nestled into the hillside like it had grown there. Solar panels gleamed on the roof, and Hazel spotted what looked like security cameras positioned at strategic points around the property. The SUV pulled up to the front entrance, and Tobias got out to open her door. "Welcome to Shadowpine." "Shadowpine?" Hazel stepped out, her eyes taking in the scale of the place. "That's the name of this house?" "The property," Tobias corrected. "It's 300 acres, most of it forested. The house itself is about 8,000 square feet." Hazel let out a low whistle. "And Dominic Vale just has this sitting here? He uses it when he needs privacy." The front door opened, and Dominic himself stepped out. He wore dark jeans and a gray sweater, more casual than the suit he had been wearing at her apartment, but no less imposing. His eyes found hers immediately. "Miss Morrison," he said, "I'm glad you're safe." "Safe is relative," Hazel replied, climbing the steps to meet him. "Someone broke into my building and stole my hard drive. Your guy here says you're going to resolve the situation. What does that mean?" "It means I'm going to find out who's targeting you and make sure they stop. And how exactly do you plan to do that?" Dominic's expression was unreadable. "That's not something you need to worry about. I think I have a right to know, considering I'm the one being hunted." "You're not being hunted," Dominic said, but there was a flicker of something in his eyes that suggested otherwise. "You're being monitored. There's a difference." Not a reassuring one. He stepped aside, gesturing toward the open door. "Come inside. We can talk more after you've had a chance to settle in." Hazel hesitated, standing on the threshold between her normal life and whatever this was. Every instinct told her to run, to demand that Tobias drive her back to the city, to handle this herself. But another part of her, the part that remembered the man in the gray hoodie and the violated storage cage, knew she was in over her head. She walked through the door. The interior of the house was stunning, high ceilings with exposed wooden beams, floor-to-ceiling windows that looked out over the forest, minimalist furniture that managed to be both elegant and comfortable. Everything about the place screamed money, but tasteful money, not the ostentatious kind. "Tobias will show you to your room," Dominic said. "There's food in the kitchen, office space if you need to work, and the grounds are yours to explore. Though I'd appreciate it if you stayed within sight of the house." "Is that a request or an order?" "A request," Dominic said, "but one I hope you'll take seriously." Hazel followed Tobias up a staircase to the second floor. He led her to a room at the end of the hall, spacious and bright, with its own bathroom and a view of the forest that would have been breathtaking under different circumstances. "I'll be downstairs if you need anything," Tobias said. "Mr. Vale wanted me to assure you that we'll send a secure message to your brother so he knows you're safe." "Thank you," Hazel said, though the word felt inadequate. When he left, she set her duffel bag on the bed and walked to the window. The forest stretched out endlessly, dark green and mysterious. Somewhere out there, wolves howled, and men with secrets moved through the shadows. And somehow, she had stumbled into the middle of it all. Chapter 3. Unveiled Truths. It was the 5th morning at Shadowpine, and Hazel had fallen into an uneasy rhythm. Wake at dawn, make coffee in the enormous kitchen, Work on photo editing in the sunroom Dominic had designated as her temporary office. Avoid asking too many questions about why a billionaire CEO needed a fortress in the woods. But sleep remained elusive. Tonight, like the others before it, Hazel had tossed and turned until exhaustion finally claimed her around 2 a.m. She dreamed of howls and shadowed figures, of men in gray hoodies and doors that would not lock. When her eyes snapped open at 3, her heart was racing, her sheets damp with sweat. She got up, pulled on a hoodie over her tank top and sleep shorts, and padded barefoot to the window. The forest beyond was a wall of darkness, the moon hidden behind clouds. She was about to turn away when movement caught her eye. A figure emerged from the tree line, moving across the lawn toward the house. Even in the darkness, she recognized the height, the broad shoulders. Dominic. But something was wrong. He was barefoot, his shirt torn and hanging in shreds. His jeans were ripped at the knees, caked with what looked like mud or dirt. He moved strangely, not with his usual controlled grace, but with a loose, almost wild quality. When he passed through a patch of moonlight that broke through the clouds, Hazel saw his face. He looked feral. His hair was disheveled, his jaw tight, and there was something in his eyes even from this distance that made her breath catch. She watched as he disappeared around the side of the house, presumably heading for one of the back entrances. Hazel stood at the window for a long moment, her mind racing. Where had he been? What had he been doing out there at 3 a.m, coming back looking like he had been in a fight? Sleep was impossible now. She grabbed her phone and crept out into the hallway, listening. The house was silent except for the ambient hum of technology and the whisper of air through vents. She descended the stairs carefully, avoiding the spots she had learned would creak. The kitchen was empty, but she heard water running somewhere deeper in the house. Hazel followed the sound to a hallway she had not explored before, one that led to what looked like a mudroom and utility area. The door to a bathroom was ajar, steam seeping out into the hall. She should have turned back, should have gone to her room and pretended she had seen nothing. But her photographer's curiosity, the same instinct that had made her record those howls in the forest, pushed her forward. Through the crack in the door, she could see Dominic at the sink, washing his hands. His shirt was gone now, revealing a muscled back crisscrossed with old scars. But there were no fresh wounds, no cuts or bruises to explain the torn clothes or the dirt. As she watched, he gripped the edge of the sink, his shoulders heaving. For a moment, she thought he might be sick, but then she realized he was trembling, his entire body taut with some kind of internal struggle. Hazel took a step back, and the floorboard beneath her foot groaned. Dominic's head snapped up, his eyes meeting hers in the mirror. For one breathless second, she could have sworn they glowed, a flash of silver that was there and gone so fast she might have imagined it. "You should be asleep," he said, his voice rough. "So should you." Hazel pushed the door open fully, refusing to back down, even though every instinct screamed at her to run. "What were you doing out there?" "That's not your concern. You looked like you'd been in a fight." "I wasn't." "Then what?" She crossed her arms. "Do you regularly go for midnight hikes through the forest and come back looking like you've been mauled by a bear?" Dominic turned to face her, and she saw the tension in every line of his body. "Miss Morrison?" "Hazel," she interrupted. "If I'm going to be trapped in your house indefinitely, you can at least use my first name." Something flickered in his expression, there and gone. "Hazel, then. There are things about my life, my work, that are better left unexplained." "That's a non-answer." "It's the only answer you're getting tonight." She studied him, this man who had upended her life with his cryptic warnings and private fortresses. There was something about him that did not add up, pieces that refused to fit together. The impossible reflexes she had noticed during dinner 3 nights ago, when a glass had slipped from the table, and he had caught it before it could fall. The way Tobias and the other security personnel moved around him, not with the deference of employees to a boss, but with something deeper, something that looked almost like reverence. And now this, disappearing into the woods in the dead of night, and returning looking like something wild. "You're not just a CEO, are you?" Hazel said quietly. Dominic's jaw tightened. "What makes you say that?" Because CEOs don't need fortresses in the woods. They don't have security teams that move like special forces operatives. And they definitely don't come back from midnight forest trips looking like they've been rolling in dirt and tearing through underbrush. For a long moment, Dominic said nothing. Then he exhaled slowly, some of the tension leaving his shoulders. You're observant. It's my job to notice details. That could be dangerous in your current situation. More dangerous than being followed and having my property stolen? She took a step closer. I deserve to know what I'm caught up in, Dominic. Real answers, not corporate doublespeak. He looked at her, really looked at her, and she saw something shift in his expression. A decision being made. Not here, he said finally. Get dressed. Meet me downstairs in 10 minutes. Before she could respond, he walked past her and disappeared down the hallway, leaving her standing in the steam-filled bathroom with more questions than ever. Hazel returned to her room and changed quickly, pulling on jeans and a sweater. Her hands shook slightly as she tied her shoes. Whatever Dominic was about to tell her, she had a feeling it would change everything. She found him in the kitchen, now wearing clean clothes, his hair still damp from what must have been a very quick shower. He had made coffee, 2 mugs sitting on the counter. He handed one to her without a word. Where's Tobias? She asked, noticing the unusual quiet. He has the night off. There are others on the property, but they won't disturb us. That sounds ominous. It's necessary. Dominic gestured toward the back door. Walk with me? They stepped out onto a stone patio that overlooked the forest. The air was cold and crisp, carrying the scent of pine and damp earth. Above them, the clouds had cleared, revealing a sky full of stars. Dominic leaned against the railing, his coffee untouched. What I'm about to tell you will sound insane. Try me. He was quiet for a moment, choosing his words carefully. That video you posted, those howls you recorded, they weren't just wolves. They were shifters. Werewolves, if you want to use the traditional term. Hazel waited for the punchline, for him to crack a smile and admit this was some kind of elaborate joke. But his expression remained deadly serious. Werewolves, she repeated flatly. Yes, you're telling me werewolves are real, and that's what I recorded. Not just recorded. You documented a sacred ceremony, a gathering of multiple packs to negotiate territorial boundaries and alliances. That's why the howls sounded different, organized. They were speaking to each other. Hazel set her coffee down before she could drop it. This is insane. I warned you it would sound that way. No, I mean you're actually insane if you think I'm going to believe this. Dominic turned to face her fully. Then how do you explain everything that's happened? The coordinated attacks on your property, the sophisticated surveillance, the fact that people from across the continent are suddenly interested in a random nature photographer? I don't know. Corporate espionage? Some kind of weird cult? It's not a cult, Hazel. It's biology. There are people in this world who can shift between human and wolf form, who have enhanced senses and strength, who live according to laws and hierarchies that predate modern civilization. She laughed, but it came out shaky. And you expect me to believe you're one of them. I don't expect anything. But yes, I am. Prove it. No. The certainty in his voice stopped her. Why not? Because once you see, you can't unsee. And despite everything, I'm trying to protect you from having to carry that knowledge. That's not your choice to make. It absolutely is, Dominic said. And there was steel in his tone now. You stumbled into something much larger than yourself, something that has rules and consequences you don't understand. The people pursuing you, they're not human, Hazel. They're shifters who see you as a vulnerability, a loose end that needs to be tied up. Hazel's heart was hammering. Part of her wanted to run, to get as far away from this madness as possible. But another part, the part that had heard those impossible howls and watched Dominic return from the forest looking feral, whispered that maybe, just maybe, he was telling the truth. If what you're saying is real, she said slowly, then what were you doing out there tonight? Patrolling, making sure the perimeter was secure. In wolf form? He did not answer, which was answer enough. And the organization you mentioned, the one I supposedly exposed? It's called the Continental Pack Alliance. I'm the Alpha King, which means I oversee all the packs in North America. That ceremony you recorded was a peace treaty signing. By posting that video, you essentially broadcast our location and our vulnerabilities to every rival and enemy we have. Hazel sank into one of the patio chairs, her legs suddenly unsteady. The woman who commented on my video, Victoria Brennan. Who is she? Dominic's expression darkened. A rival alpha from Europe. She's been trying to destabilize the alliance for years, and you handed her the perfect opportunity. So this is my fault. No, Dominic said firmly. This is mine. I should have been more careful about where we held the ceremony, should have anticipated that humans might wander into the area. You're a victim of circumstance. A victim who's now trapped in a house in the woods being told that werewolves are real. I know how this sounds. Do you? Hazel looked up at him. Because from where I'm sitting, this is the most absurd conversation I've ever had. And the terrifying part is that I'm starting to believe you. Before Dominic could respond, the sound of shattering glass erupted from inside the house. He moved faster than should have been possible, placing himself between Hazel and the door in less than a heartbeat. His entire demeanor changed, the carefully controlled CEO vanishing and something predatory taking its place. Stay behind me, he commanded. And this time, Hazel did not argue. They entered the house cautiously. The sound had come from the front of the building, near the main entrance. As they rounded the corner into the foyer, Hazel saw the damage. One of the tall windows had been smashed, glass scattered across the marble floor, but there was no one there. Dominic pulled out his phone and spoke rapidly into it. Perimeter breach, north side. I need eyes on all access points now. Footsteps thundered from various parts of the house as security personnel responded. Tobias appeared from a side door, his hair messed up from sleep but his eyes alert. Sir, I was just informed. I know. Dominic cut him off. Check the grounds. They might still be close. As Tobias and 3 other guards moved out, Dominic kept Hazel close, his hand hovering near the small of her back without quite touching. She could feel the heat radiating off him, could sense the coiled tension in his muscles. Was this Victoria? She whispered. Her people, most likely. A message. What kind of message? That nowhere is safe. A howl split the night, distant but unmistakable. Then another, closer. Hazel recognized the pattern from her video, that same melodic quality. But now she understood it was language, a conversation she could not translate. Dominic's phone buzzed. He answered, listened, his face growing graver. Understood. Maintain positions. He turned to Hazel. There are at least 5 shifters on the property perimeter. They're not attacking, just watching. That's supposed to be comforting. It means they're not ready for a full assault. They're testing our defenses. And when they're done testing, Dominic met her eyes, and she saw something there that frightened her more than anything else that night. Worry. Then things get complicated. Tobias returned, slightly out of breath. We found tracks, at least 6 individuals, possibly more. They scattered when we approached, heading in different directions. Coordinated, Dominic muttered. They wanted us to know they were here. Sir, about the security detail. Tobias began, but stopped abruptly, his eyes widening slightly as he looked at Hazel. She realized what had changed. Until now, they had been speaking carefully, keeping up the pretense of normal security concerns. But the broken window, the howls, Dominic's reaction, it had shattered more than just glass. It had shattered the illusion. She knows, Dominic said quietly. I told her. And Tobias's expression shifted through several emotions before settling on resignation. How much? Enough. And she believes you? Hazel spoke up. I'm standing right here, and I'm still deciding what I believe. But strange people breaking into my storage unit, following me, and now throwing rocks through windows while actual wolves howl in the forest, is making a pretty compelling argument. Tobias looked at Dominic. We need to move her. This location is compromised. Agreed. But where? Every property I own is known to some degree. Victoria has had years to map my holdings. There's the bunker, Tobias said. It's off record, no paper trail. Even most of our pack doesn't know about it. The bunker's too isolated. If they find us there, we'd have no backup. Hazel listened to them discuss her safety, feeling like a chess piece being moved around a board she could not see. Can I make a suggestion? Both men looked at her. My brother Owen. Does he know about any of this? No, Dominic said. We've been sending him encrypted messages from your phone. But they've been vague. Just enough to keep him from worrying. He's going to worry anyway if I disappear completely. And if Victoria is as thorough as you say, she'll eventually figure out I have a brother. She could use him to get to me. Dominic's expression turned grim. You're right. Tobias, have someone keep eyes on Owen Morrison, 22, engineering student at the university. Discreet surveillance only, don't approach. Already on it, sir. I put a detail on him 2 days ago. Without telling me? Hazel's voice rose. Would you have preferred we left him vulnerable? Tobias asked, not unkindly. She wanted to be angry, to rail against these people making decisions about her family without her input. But the truth was, she was relieved. If what Dominic said was real, if there were actually people or creatures or whatever out there who might hurt Owen to get to her, then having him protected was the only thing that made sense. Fine, she said, but I want to talk to him. Real communication, not sanitized messages. That's a security risk, Tobias began. I don't care. He's my brother, and he deserves to know I'm okay. You can monitor the call, encrypt it, whatever you need to do. But I'm talking to him tomorrow. Dominic studied her for a moment, then nodded. Tomorrow afternoon. We'll set up a secure line. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, Dominic said. Once he knows you're in danger, he's going to want to help. And that could put him at greater risk. Then bring him here, Hazel said. If this place isn't safe anymore, take him to wherever you're planning to move me. Tobias and Dominic exchanged a look, some kind of silent communication passing between them. That's not a simple request, Dominic said finally. Why not? Because bringing a human into pack territory, into our world, is a significant decision. It requires trust, and more than that, it requires the human to understand and accept what they're seeing. He's 22, not 12. He can handle the truth. Can he? Dominic's gaze was intense. Most humans can't. Their minds reject it, or they panic, or they try to expose us. Even the ones who genuinely want to understand often can't bridge that gap between what they believe is possible and what actually exists. Owen's not most humans. He's my brother, and he's one of the smartest people I know. If I can start to wrap my head around this, so can he. Another long silence. Then Dominic sighed. We'll discuss it after your call with him tomorrow. If he seems stable, if you truly believe he can handle this, we'll consider extraction. Extraction makes it sound like a military operation. It might be, Tobias said grimly. If Victoria's people are watching us, they're watching him too. The weight of that settled over Hazel. Her harmless video, her innocent recording of something strange and beautiful, had cascaded into this nightmare. Owen was in danger because of her, because she had posted something online without thinking about the consequences. Hey, Dominic said softly, and she realized he had moved closer. This isn't your fault, isn't it? No. The fault lies with people who would harm an innocent woman and threaten her family over a breach that was my responsibility to prevent. You're not to blame for any of this. His certainty helped, even if she did not quite believe it yet. The rest of the night was spent securing the house, boarding up the broken window, checking and rechecking locks and alarm systems. By the time dawn broke, painting the forest in shades of gold and gray, Hazel was exhausted but wired, her mind unable to stop processing everything she had learned. Werewolves were real. Dominic Vale was their king, and somewhere out there, a woman named Victoria Brennan was orchestrating attacks because of a video Hazel had posted 5 days ago. Her life had become unrecognizable, and she had a feeling it was only going to get stranger from here. Chapter 4. Blood and Protection. The call with Owen happened at 2 p.m, exactly as Dominic had promised. Hazel sat in what he called the secure room, a windowless office in the basement of the house filled with monitors and equipment that looked like it belonged in a spy movie. Tobias stood by the door, and Dominic sat across from her, his presence both reassuring and unsettling. The phone rang twice before Owen answered. Hazel? Is that really you? It's me, she said, and her voice broke slightly on the words. Hearing her brother's voice made everything real in a way it hadn't been before. I'm okay. I promise. Your messages have been weird. Short. Not like you. There was strain in his voice. What's going on? And don't tell me it's just work, because I've been watching the news and there's nothing about any photographers being in danger. Hazel glanced at Dominic, who gave a small nod. Permission to tell the truth. Or at least part of it. Remember I told you about the billionaire who came to my apartment? Dominic Vale? Yeah, the guy who was worried about your wolf video. It turns out he had good reason to be worried. There are people, dangerous people, who are upset about that video. They broke into my storage unit. They've been following me. Dominic brought me to a safe location. But Owen, I need you to be careful too. Silence on the other end. Then, are you being held against your will? Blink twice if... Owen, I'm serious. I'm here voluntarily, and I'm safe. But you might be in danger too, just by association with me. That's insane. What kind of people get this upset over a video of wolves? The kind who have secrets worth protecting. She chose her words carefully. I can't explain everything over the phone, but I need you to trust me. If anyone approaches you, anyone you don't know, I need you to call this number immediately. She read off the secure line Tobias had given her. Can you do that? Hazel, you're scaring me. I know. I'm sorry, but I need you to promise me you'll be careful. Pay attention to your surroundings. Don't go anywhere alone if you can help it, and for God's sake, don't talk to strangers about me or that video. Another pause. Are you in actual danger? Like, life-threatening danger? She met Dominic's eyes. He did not look away. Did not try to soften the truth. Potentially, she admitted. That's why I'm here. Why I'm taking this seriously. These people, they're not playing games. Then I'm coming to you. Tell me where you are. No, Owen. You don't get to tell me no. You're my sister, and if you're in danger, I'm not sitting in my dorm room pretending everything's fine. Dominic held out his hand for the phone. Hazel hesitated, then passed it to him. Owen, my name is Dominic Vale. I'm the one providing security for your sister. His voice was calm, authoritative. I understand your concern, but coming here right now would actually put both of you at greater risk. Hazel could not hear Owen's response, but she could imagine it. Dominic listened for a moment, then continued. What I can offer is this. Enhanced security for you as well. People I trust watching your building, making sure you're safe while we resolve the situation. And if things escalate, we'll bring you to a secure location. But right now, the best thing you can do for Hazel is to maintain your normal routine and let us handle the threat. More silence. Then Dominic's expression shifted slightly. I give you my word. If your sister is in immediate danger, you'll be informed and extracted immediately. He paused. Yes, extracted. I have the resources to make that happen quickly and safely. He handed the phone back to Hazel. He's really a billionaire, isn't he? Owen said, sounding slightly dazed. He talks like someone who's used to getting what he wants. He is, and he does, Hazel confirmed. But Owen, he's also the only reason I'm still safe. I need you to trust him, and more importantly, I need you to trust me. Can you do that? She heard him exhale slowly. Yeah, okay. But Hazel, if anything happens to you, it won't, I promise. You can't promise that. Then I promise I'll do everything I can to stay safe. That's the best I can give you right now. Fine. But I'm holding you to weekly calls. No excuses. Deal. After they hung up, Hazel sat in the silence of the secure room, feeling the weight of what she had just done. She had pulled her brother into this nightmare, made him aware of dangers he could not fully understand. But the alternative, leaving him ignorant and vulnerable, seemed worse. He sounds like you, Dominic observed. Stubborn. Protective. Family trait, Hazel said. How long before you actually bring him here? That depends on several factors. Whether the threat escalates, whether we can secure a location that's truly safe for both of you, and whether your brother can handle the truth about what's really happening. The werewolf truth. Yes. Hazel stood, suddenly restless. I still don't know if I believe that. I mean, I believe you believe it. And I believe something strange is going on. But actual werewolves? That's a lot to accept. Dominic stood as well, and in the confined space of the room, He seemed even larger, more imposing. Would it help if you saw? Saw what? A shift. Proof. Her heart kicked into a higher gear. You said you wouldn't show me. I said I wouldn't force you to see. But if you're asking, if you genuinely want to know, then I'll show you. Once you know for certain, we can move forward without the doubt eating at you. Hazel thought about it. Part of her wanted to refuse, to cling to the possibility that this was all some elaborate misunderstanding. But another part, the part that had built a career on capturing truth through a camera lens, needed to know. Okay, she said. Show me. They went outside, to a clearing behind the house where the forest pressed close on 3 sides. Tobias followed at a distance, keeping watch. The afternoon sun filtered through the trees, dappling the ground with light and shadow. Dominic stood in the center of the clearing, his posture relaxed but his expression serious. Once you see this, you can't unsee it. You'll know that the world is not what you thought it was. Are you sure? I'm sure. He nodded, then began to remove his jacket. Hazel watched, confused, until she realized what he was doing. If he was going to shift, he would need to not destroy his clothes. Or at least, she assumed that was the logic. It doesn't hurt, he said, as if that was her primary concern. Not anymore. When we're young, the first shifts are painful. But after a while it becomes natural. Like breathing. That's not as reassuring as you think it is. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. Fair enough. Then he closed his eyes and everything changed. It was not dramatic the way movies portrayed it. No screaming or bones cracking audibly. Instead, it was fluid, almost beautiful. His body seemed to shimmer, the edges blurring. And then where Dominic Vale had stood, there was a wolf. But not just any wolf. This creature was massive, easily twice the size of any natural wolf Hazel had ever seen in photographs. Its fur was black as midnight, so dark it seemed to absorb light. And its eyes, those were still Dominic's eyes, that striking gray blue. But now they glowed with an inner light that was definitely not human. The wolf watched her, utterly still, waiting. Hazel's legs had stopped working. Her breath came in short, shallow gasps. Every rational part of her brain screamed that this was impossible, that she was hallucinating, that someone had drugged her coffee. But her photographer's eye, trained to see and capture reality, knew the truth. This was real. The wolf took a step toward her, moving with predatory grace. Hazel flinched back, and it stopped immediately, lowering its head slightly. The gesture was unmistakably submissive, reassuring. I won't hurt you. Dominic? Her voice came out as barely a whisper. The wolf's ears perked forward. Then it shimmered again, and Dominic was standing there, human once more, pulling his jacket back on. That's not possible, Hazel said, even though she had just witnessed it. That's not possible. And yet, Dominic approached slowly, giving her space. I'm sorry. I know this is overwhelming. Overwhelming. A slightly hysterical laugh bubbled up. That's one word for it. I just watched a man turn into a giant wolf and then back again. I think I'm entitled to more than overwhelmed. You are. You're entitled to be angry, scared, confused. All of it. Hazel sank down onto a fallen log, her legs finally giving out completely. Those howls I recorded. That was you. And about 30 others. Pack leaders from across the continent, meeting to sign a treaty that took 2 years to negotiate. And Victoria, she can do this too. Yes, she's an alpha, which means she's stronger and faster than average shifters. But she's not Alpha King. That position comes with additional power, additional responsibility. What makes you Alpha King? Is it hereditary? Partially. My father was Alpha King before me, but the title also requires a challenge, a proving. When I was 25, I fought and defeated 3 challengers in single combat to claim the position. It's not just about bloodline. It's about strength, strategy, and the ability to unite packs that would otherwise be at each other's throats. Hazel processed this, trying to fit it into her understanding of the world. How many of you are there? Worldwide? Perhaps 500,000. In North America alone, roughly 100,000, organized into 47 packs. And humans just don't notice. We're very good at hiding. We have to be. History has shown us what happens when humans discover something they don't understand, fear and violence. So we stay hidden. We police ourselves, and we protect the secret. Until someone like me accidentally exposes you. You didn't expose us, Dominic said gently. Not really. The video showed Howls, nothing more. Only other shifters could have recognized what they were hearing. You couldn't have known. But now Victoria knows where you were, and she's using that against you. Against us, he corrected. You're part of this now, whether you want to be or not. Hazel looked up at him, this man who was not entirely a man, who had just shown her something that rewrote the rules of reality. What does Victoria want? War. The peace I've built. It's good for most packs, but not for her. She runs a mercenary operation, hiring out shifter soldiers to the highest bidder. Peace means less business. If she can destabilize the alliance, create chaos and conflict, she profits. And I gave her the excuse she needed. You gave her an opening. She would have found another eventually. Before Hazel could respond, Tobias's phone buzzed. He answered, listened, and his face went pale. Sir, we have a situation. Multiple contacts approaching from the north and west. At least 12 signatures moving fast. Dominic's entire demeanor changed, the gentle explanation vanishing as the Alpha King emerged. Battle formation. Get Hazel to the safe room now. No, Hazel said, standing. If something's happening, I want to know. This is not a negotiation, Dominic said. And there was command in his voice that made something in her want to submit, to obey without question. Tobias, take her inside and lock it down. Sir, with that many contacts, you'll need every fighter. I'll manage. Protecting her is the priority. The sound of howls erupted from the forest, closer than they should have been. These were not the melodic calls Hazel had recorded. These were battle cries, aggressive and threatening. Dominic shifted in a blur of motion, the massive black wolf appearing where he had stood. 4 other shifters emerged from various positions around the property, stripping off clothes and shifting as they ran to join him. Hazel caught glimpses of wolves in various colors, gray and brown and one startling white, all of them huge and terrifying. Tobias grabbed her arm. Miss Morrison, we need to move now. They ran for the house, but they had taken maybe 10 steps when shapes burst from the tree line. 6 wolves, all of them moving with coordinated precision, and all of them focused on one target. Her. Dominic intercepted the first one, colliding with it in midair with an impact that shook the ground. The 2 wolves rolled, snarling and snapping. 2 more of Dominic's wolves engaged others, but that still left 3 racing toward Hazel and Tobias. Tobias shifted, his clothes tearing as a sandy brown wolf appeared. He threw himself at the nearest attacker, buying seconds. Hazel ran. Her photographer's instincts screamed at her to stop, to document, to capture this impossible moment. But her survival instincts were louder. She sprinted for the house, her lungs burning. She almost made it. A wolf, this one dark gray with scarred muzzle, cut her off at the patio. It crouched, ready to spring, its lips pulled back to reveal fangs that could tear her apart. Time seemed to slow. Hazel's hand closed around something, a decorative rock from the garden border. She threw it with all her strength. It caught the wolf on the side of the head, and while it barely fazed the creature, the surprise of it made it hesitate for half a second. Half a second was all Dominic needed. He hit the gray wolf like a freight train, his jaws clamping down on its shoulder. The gray wolf yelped and tried to twist free, but Dominic was relentless. Blood splattered across the stone patio, dark and visceral. Inside! Tobias's voice, strained and human again despite the battle, somewhere behind her. Hazel lunged for the door, her fingers closing on the handle. She wrenched it open and tumbled inside, slamming it shut behind her. Through the glass, she watched the battle continue, wolves tearing at each other with savage efficiency. The elegant clearing transformed into a war zone. Dominic fought with brutal precision, taking on 2 attackers at once. One he had pinned by the throat, the other circling for an opening. When it lunged, Dominic released the first and caught the second mid-leap, his momentum using its own weight against it. They crashed to the ground, and Dominic's jaws found its neck. The wolf went still. Hazel pressed her hand to her mouth, bile rising. She had just watched Dominic kill something, someone. Because those weren't just animals. They were people. People who could shift back to human form, who had lives and families, and the gray wolf broke free from another fight and charged the door. Hazel screamed and threw herself backward as it hit the glass, cracking it but not breaking through. Then Dominic was there, dragging the gray wolf away from the house with such force that Hazel heard something snap. The gray wolf limped away, retreating toward the forest with the surviving attackers. The battle was over as quickly as it had started. Dominic shifted back to human, his body covered in blood, his shoulder bleeding from a deep cut. The other wolves, his wolves, shifted as well, all of them injured but alive, all except one. A brown wolf lay motionless near the tree line, its side torn open. Even from the house, Hazel could see it was not breathing. Tobias opened the door and gestured for her to stay put while he assessed. After a moment, he came back inside, his expression grim. "Jackson didn't make it," he said quietly. "But you're safe. That's what matters." Hazel could not speak. Someone had died protecting her. A person she had never met, whose name she had just learned in the context of their death. Dominic entered the house, and someone handed him clothes. He dressed quickly, wincing as fabric pulled across the wound on his shoulder. "I'm sorry you had to see that," he said, and his voice was tired in a way that went beyond physical exhaustion. "You killed them," Hazel whispered. "2 of them. They would have killed you without hesitation. They were people. They were soldiers following orders. Victoria sent them knowing some wouldn't return. That's who we're dealing with." Hazel wanted to argue, to rail against the brutality of what she had witnessed. But the memory of that gray wolf charging the door, of teeth designed to rip and tear, stopped her. Those wolves had not been coming to talk. They had been coming to take her, or kill her. "Is it always like this?" she asked. "Your world? Is it always this violent?" "No," Dominic said, and there was something sad in his eyes. "Most of the time we live peacefully. We have jobs and families. We go to movies and eat at restaurants, just like humans. But when conflict comes, when territory or pack or family is threatened, we fight. That's the nature of what we are. And Victoria won't stop until she gets what she wants. No, she won't. Which is why we're moving you tonight. The safe house. The bunker I mentioned before. It's off the grid, heavily fortified, and unknown to anyone outside my innermost circle. What about Owen?" Dominic exchanged a look with Tobias. "We'll extract him at the same time. Bring him to the bunker with you." "You said that would be dangerous." "It is. But after today, leaving him exposed is more dangerous. Victoria has proven she's willing to attack in broad daylight with superior numbers. If she targets your brother next, we might not be able to protect him without bringing him into our world." Hazel nodded, too numb to feel relief. "When do we leave?" "As soon as it's dark. We move under cover of night. Multiple vehicles, decoy routes. Tobias will coordinate Owen's extraction. With luck, we'll be secure in the bunker before Victoria realizes what happened. And if we're not lucky?" Dominic's expression was answer enough. If they were not lucky, more people would die. Maybe even her. The next few hours passed in a blur of preparation. Hazel packed her minimal belongings while around her. The house transformed into a tactical operations center. Maps appeared, routes were debated, contingencies planned. She felt like a bystander in her own crisis, watching as people made life and death decisions about her safety. When night fell, 4 vehicles pulled up to the house. Dominic explained the plan. Decoys would head in 3 different directions, while the real transport took a 4th route. Owen would be picked up by a separate team and brought directly to the bunker. "Stay low, stay quiet, and trust the driver," Dominic said as he opened the door to a nondescript sedan. "We'll be right behind you." Hazel climbed into the back seat. The driver, a woman with short dark hair and sharp eyes, nodded at her in the rearview mirror. "Don't worry, sweetheart. We'll get you there safe." As the convoy pulled away from Shadow Pine, Hazel looked back at the house. In the darkness, it looked peaceful, beautiful even, but she knew what had happened there. The blood that had been spilled on its grounds. And she knew this was only the beginning. Chapter 5. Broken Sanctuary. The bunker was not what Hazel expected. From the name, She had pictured concrete walls and fluorescent lights, something cold and institutional. Instead, the underground facility was surprisingly comfortable, with warm lighting, carpeted floors, and rooms that felt more like an upscale apartment than a military installation. "We're 30 feet below ground," Tobias explained as he gave her a brief tour. "Reinforced steel and concrete, independent power and water systems, air filtration that can handle chemical or biological threats. This place could survive anything short of a direct nuclear strike." "Comforting," Hazel muttered, though the idea of being trapped underground made her skin crawl. The bunker had 6 bedrooms, a common area with a kitchen, a medical station, and what Tobias called the operations center, a room filled with monitors showing various camera feeds from the surface. There were currently 8 people inside, including her, all of them Dominic's most trusted guards. Owen would make 9. "How long until they bring my brother?" Hazel asked, checking her watch. It had been 3 hours since they arrived. "They're taking precautions, making sure they're not followed. Should be within the hour." Dominic emerged from the operations center, his shoulder now properly bandaged. He had been on the phone constantly since they arrived, coordinating responses to what he called Victoria's escalation. 2 more packs were hit tonight, he said, his voice tight with controlled anger. "She's attacking on multiple fronts, trying to stretch our resources thin." "Is it working?" Hazel asked. "No, but it's costly. We've lost 4 people across 3 incidents and another 7 injured. She's playing a numbers game, and she has more disposable soldiers than I'd like to admit." "I'm sorry," Hazel said, the words inadequate. "People are dying because of me." Dominic crossed to her, his expression softening slightly. "People are dying because Victoria is a monster who values profit over life. You're the excuse, not the cause. If it wasn't you, it would have been something else. That doesn't make me feel better. It's not meant to. It's meant to be the truth." One of the guards, a young man named Marcus, called from the operations center. "Sir, we have contact from the extraction team. They're 10 minutes out with the package." Package. They meant Owen. Hazel's heart rate kicked up. She had not seen her brother in 2 weeks, had not been able to properly explain what was happening beyond vague warnings about danger. Now, he was being brought to an underground bunker to be told that werewolves were real, and his sister was caught in the middle of their war. "How much are you going to tell him?" she asked Dominic. "That depends on how he reacts to the initial explanation. Some humans can accept the truth immediately. Others need time and proof. He'll want proof. Owen's a scientist at heart. He doesn't believe anything without evidence. Then we'll provide evidence, if necessary." The next 10 minutes felt like an eternity. Hazel paced the common area, unable to sit still. When the alert finally came that the extraction team had arrived at the surface entrance, she practically ran to the elevator that connected the bunker to the hidden entry point a 1/4 mile away. The elevator descended with agonizing slowness. When the doors finally opened, Owen stepped out, flanked by 2 guards. His eyes were wide, his hair disheveled, and he looked like he had not slept in days. "Hazel," his voice cracked on her name. She threw her arms around him, and for a moment, they were just siblings again, the way they had been before any of this started. Owen hugged her back fiercely. "Are you okay?" he asked, pulling back to look at her. "They wouldn't tell me anything, just showed up at my dorm and said I needed to come with them immediately. I thought—" He stopped, swallowing hard. "I thought something had happened to you." "I'm fine," Hazel assured him. "But we need to talk, all of us." Owen seemed to notice their surroundings for the first time. "Where are we? Is this a bomb shelter?" "Something like that," Dominic said, stepping forward. "Owen, I'm Dominic Vale. We spoke on the phone." Owen's expression shifted, recognition and wariness mixing. "The billionaire. You're the one who's been keeping my sister in an undisclosed location for a week. For her protection, yes. Protection from what, exactly?" Hazel said people were after her because of some video. But that's insane. People don't launch coordinated attacks over a nature video. They do when the video exposes something they've spent centuries keeping secret, Dominic said calmly. "Come, sit down. This conversation is going to take a while." They gathered in the common area, Hazel and Owen on one couch, Dominic in a chair across from them. Tobias remained standing near the door, watchful. "Owen, Hazel began. What I'm about to tell you is going to sound impossible. But I need you to listen to the whole thing before you react, okay? Her brother's eyes narrowed with concern. You're scaring me. I'm sorry. But you need to know the truth. She took a breath. The howls I recorded, the ones in the video, they weren't normal wolves. They were werewolves, shifters, people who can transform between human and wolf form. Silence. Owen stared at her, then at Dominic, then back at her. Is this a joke? He asked. Because if it is, it's not funny. It's not a joke, Hazel said. I know how it sounds. Believe me, I had the same reaction. But Owen, I've seen it. I watched Dominic shift right in front of me. It's real. Owen stood abruptly. Okay, I don't know what's going on here, but this is crazy. Werewolves aren't real. They're mythology, folklore. There's no scientific basis for spontaneous transformation of mass and bone structure. You're right, Dominic said. There's no scientific basis that human science has discovered, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Show me your peer-reviewed studies. Show me the evidence. The evidence is standing in front of you, Dominic said. And if you need more proof than that, I can provide it. But Owen, understand that once you see, you become part of this world. You'll carry this secret for the rest of your life. There's no going back. Owen looked at Hazel. You actually believe this? I didn't want to, she admitted. But yes, I do. Because I saw it, Owen. I watched a man become a wolf. People can't just become wolves. It violates every law of thermodynamics, of biology, of basic physics. Or, Tobias spoke up, your understanding of those laws is incomplete. Human science is impressive, but it's not omniscient. There are things in this world that exist outside your current framework of knowledge. Owen ran his hands through his hair, a gesture Hazel recognized from childhood when he was stressed or overwhelmed. This is insane. You're all insane. I'll prove it, Dominic said, standing. Right now, if you want. I'll shift in front of you, and you can see for yourself. Dominic, your shoulder, Hazel started, is healing. Shifter metabolism is faster than human. I'll be fine. He looked at Owen. What do you say? Do you want proof? Owen's jaw tightened. Fine. Show me. And when nothing happens, we're going to have a serious conversation about my sister's safety and mental state. They moved to a larger room that Tobias called the training area. It was empty except for mats on the floor and equipment storage along one wall. Dominic stood in the center, and Hazel pulled Owen back to give him space. Watch, Dominic said simply. Then he shifted. The transformation was just as fluid as before. That strange shimmer as human became wolf. The massive black creature stood where Dominic had been, its gray-blue eyes fixed on Owen. Her brother made a sound, somewhere between a gasp and a choke. He stumbled backward, and Hazel caught his arm to steady him. That's not possible, Owen whispered. It can't. The wolf took a step forward and Owen flinched. The wolf stopped, then lowered itself to the ground, making itself smaller, less threatening. After a moment, it shimmered again, and Dominic was human once more. Do you believe now? He asked quietly. Owen's legs gave out, and he sat down hard on the mat. His face had gone pale, his eyes unfocused. I don't understand. How is that possible? The mass alone. Where does it go? How does bone restructure that fast? What about the neurological changes required to control a completely different body structure? Those are good questions, Dominic said. And I don't have answers that will satisfy a scientist. All I can tell you is that this is what we are, what I am. And because your sister recorded our ceremony, because she accidentally exposed our location, people who want to hurt me are now targeting her, which means they're targeting you too. Owen looked up at Hazel. You've known about this for how long? A few days. I'm still processing it. And you're okay? They haven't hurt you? Dominic's people have protected me. Multiple times. From what? From other werewolves? Yes, Dominic said. A rival alpha named Victoria Brennan is using your sister's video as an excuse to destabilize the peace I've built between packs. She's sent mercenaries to capture or kill Hazel. Yesterday, 12 of them attacked the safe house where we were staying. We killed 2 and drove off the rest, but one of my people died protecting your sister." Owen absorbed this, his scientific mind visibly trying to reconcile impossible facts with observed reality. "So werewolves are real? They have politics and territories, and my sister is caught in the middle of some kind of supernatural gang war." "That's an oversimplification, but essentially accurate," Dominic said. "And we're in an underground bunker because it's the most secure location I have. Victoria doesn't know about this place. As far as anyone outside this room knows, you're both still at your respective locations, protected by decoys. How long do we have to stay here?" "Until I neutralize the threat." "And how exactly do you plan to do that?" Owen's voice had an edge now, shock giving way to anger. "Are you going to kill her? Is that how your world works? Just murder anyone who gets in your way?" "If necessary, yes," Dominic said, and there was no apology in his tone. "Victoria has killed dozens of innocents over the years. She won't stop unless she's stopped permanently. I'd prefer to capture and exile her, but I'll do whatever is necessary to protect the people under my care." "We're not under your care," Owen said. "We're just normal people who got caught up in your mess." "Owen," Hazel said softly, but Dominic held up a hand. "He's right to be angry. You both are. This situation is unfair, and you deserve better. But fair or not, this is where we are. I can't change what happened, but I can keep you alive. That has to be worth something." Before Owen could respond, alarms blared throughout the bunker. Tobias's voice came over the intercom system. "We have a breach. Multiple hostiles in the access tunnel. They found us." Dominic's expression went cold. "That's impossible. No one knows about this location. Tell that to the 20 heat signatures heading our way," Tobias said. "We have maybe 3 minutes before they reach the main level." Hazel felt her blood turn to ice. "How did they find us?" "Tracker," Dominic said, his voice hard. "Someone on my team betrayed us." He turned to Owen. "I'm sorry, but you're about to see exactly how our world works." Guards flooded into the training area, 6 of them including Tobias. They moved with military precision, taking up defensive positions. "Marcus, get the civilians to the safe room," Dominic ordered. "Everyone else, prepare for close quarters combat. They're coming through the tunnel, which means they can only approach 2 at a time. Use the bottleneck to our advantage." "Sir, there's something else," Marcus said, his face grim. "They're pumping something into the ventilation system. Some kind of gas. It's affecting our people." "Sedative," Tobias said, swaying slightly. "Specifically designed for shifter metabolism. I can feel it." Around the room, the guards were showing signs of distress. Their movements became sluggish, their eyes unfocused. "Owen, Hazel," Dominic said urgently. "You're human. The sedative won't affect you as quickly. When the attackers get here, you need to run. There's an emergency exit at the north end. It comes up near a creek about half a mile away. Get to the surface and head east. Don't stop. Don't look back." "What about you?" Hazel asked. "I'll buy you time." "Dominic, this isn't a debate." His eyes met hers, and there was something in them that made her chest tight. "You matter more than you know. Now go." The sound of metal screeching filled the air, the access tunnel being forced open. Dominic shifted, his wolf form appearing even as the other guards collapsed, unable to fight off the sedative. "Move," Tobias managed to say before he too fell. Hazel grabbed Owen's hand and ran. Behind them, she heard snarls and screams, the sound of battle erupting in the confined space of the bunker. She wanted to look back, to make sure Dominic was okay. But Owen pulled her forward, through corridors that all looked the same. They found the emergency exit, a ladder leading up through darkness. Owen went first, Hazel right behind him. Her arms burned as she climbed, her breath coming in desperate gasps. They emerged into cold night air, surrounded by forest. The creek Dominic had mentioned burbled somewhere close by. "East," Hazel panted. He said go east. They ran, crashing through underbrush, their feet pounding against forest floor. Hazel had no idea if they were being followed, no idea if Dominic had survived. All she knew was that she had to keep moving. Chapter 6. Silver and Salvation. They ran for what felt like hours, but was probably only 20 minutes before Owen stumbled, his engineering student body not built for this kind of endurance. Hazel caught him before he could fall completely, both of them gasping for air. "We need to keep moving," she managed between breaths. "I know, give me 10 seconds. Those 10 seconds never came. A howl split the night, close and hunting. Then another, from a different direction. "They're surrounding us," Owen said, his voice shaking. Hazel looked around desperately. The forest was dense here, old-growth trees with thick trunks. No obvious shelter, nowhere to hide that would actually protect them from creatures that could track by scent. "Climb," she said suddenly. "They're wolves. They can't climb trees." "Are you serious? Do you have a better idea?" They scrambled for the nearest tree with low branches, an old oak with bark rough enough to provide handholds. Hazel boosted Owen up first, then pulled herself after him. They climbed until the branches grew thin, maybe 20 feet up, and clung there in the darkness. Below them, shapes moved through the underbrush. Wolves, but not Dominic's people. These moved with predatory coordination, spreading out to search. Hazel counted 6 of them, all large and clearly shifters rather than natural animals. One passed directly beneath their tree. It paused, sniffing the air, and Hazel held her breath. The wolf's head swung toward the trunk, and she could have sworn it looked up, directly at where they hid. Then a voice called out, human and female, "Check the creek bed." They couldn't have gotten far. The wolves moved away, disappearing into the darkness. Hazel and Owen remained frozen in the tree, not daring to move. "What do we do now?" Owen whispered. "Wait. Hope they move on. And if they don't?" Hazel didn't have an answer for that. They stayed in the tree as minutes stretched into an hour. The wolves returned twice more, searching in expanding circles. Each time, Hazel was certain they would be found, but the shifters passed beneath without looking up. When the forest finally fell silent, Hazel's legs were numb, and her hands cramped from gripping the branches. Slowly, carefully, they climbed down. "Which way?" Owen asked. "I don't know. Dominic said east, but I lost all sense of direction while we were running." "Phone?" Hazel checked hers. No signal this deep in the forest, but the compass app still worked. "East is that way. But Owen, we don't know where we're going. We could be walking for miles with no destination. Better than staying here and waiting to be caught." He had a point. They started walking, moving as quietly as possible through the underbrush. The night was cold, and Hazel realized she had left the bunker without a jacket. Adrenaline had kept her warm while running, but now she shivered. They had gone maybe half a mile when they heard it. The sound of vehicles, multiple engines coming from ahead. "Hide!" Owen hissed, pulling her behind a fallen log. Headlights appeared through the trees, sweeping across the forest floor. Not one vehicle but 4, moving in convoy. They stopped perhaps 50 yards away, and figures emerged. Hazel's heart sank. More of Victoria's people, come to join the search. But then she heard a voice that made her breath catch. "Spread out in pairs. They couldn't have gotten far on foot. And remember, we want them alive. Tobias." That was Tobias's voice. Hazel stood before Owen could stop her. "Tobias!" Every figure in the convoy spun toward her voice, weapons appearing as if from nowhere. Then Tobias was running, covering the distance in seconds that should have been impossible. "Miss Morrison, thank God. Are you hurt?" "We're fine. Scared, but fine." "What happened?" "Is Dominic alive?" Tobias said, and relief flooded through her. "Wounded, but alive. He sent us to find you." "The bunker?" "Compromised. We lost 3 people before we could evacuate." His expression was grim. "Victoria's forces retreated when they realized you weren't there. One of them talked before dying. Victoria has orders to bring you to her alive." "Why? What does she want with me?" "Leverage. She knows the Alpha King cares about you. She's going to use you to force him to step down." Owen spoke up from behind the log. "So we're basically hostages in a war between werewolf monarchs." "Great. Just great." Tobias noticed him for the first time. "Your brother adapting well, I see. He just watched a man turn into a wolf and then got chased through the forest by more wolves. He's handling it better than I did. Where's Dominic now? Hazel asked. In the lead vehicle. He refused medical attention until we found you. Come on, let's get you both somewhere safe before Victoria's people regroup. They followed Tobias to the convoy. The lead vehicle was a large SUV with tinted windows. When Tobias opened the back door, Hazel saw Dominic inside, and her breath caught. He was human, but barely. His shirt was torn and soaked with blood, his face pale. The wound on his shoulder had reopened, and there were new injuries, a gash across his ribs, claw marks down his left arm. You should be in a hospital, Hazel said, climbing in beside him. Shifter Hospital. Human doctors would ask too many questions about wounds that are already starting to heal. His eyes found hers. You're safe. That's what matters. 3 of your people died because of me. 3 of my people died fighting an enemy who would have killed dozens more if left unchecked. Their deaths have meaning. He winced as the vehicle started moving. Tobias, how long to the safe house? 2 hours. Maybe less if we push it. What safe house? Owen asked from the seat behind them. I thought the bunker was your ultimate safe house. The bunker was one of 6 secure locations, Dominic said. We're going to the one furthest from Victoria's known territory, a property in the mountains that's been in my family for generations. Can we trust that it's secure? Hazel asked. Someone betrayed us. Someone on your team told Victoria about the bunker. I know. Dominic's voice went cold. Marcus, I've already sent word to have him detained if he surfaces. But the mountain property is different. It's not just secure, it's sacred. Pack law protects it. Victoria would have to declare formal war to attack it directly. And you don't think she'll do that. She might, but it will take time to gather enough forces. And time is what I need right now. He slumped back against the seat, and Hazel saw how much the effort of speaking was costing him. Without thinking, she reached out and took his hand. His fingers closed around hers, warm despite the blood loss. You need to rest, she said. I need to keep you alive. You've done that. Now let someone else take over for a while. His eyes met hers, and something passed between them, an understanding that went beyond words. Then his eyes drifted closed, and his breathing evened out into sleep or unconsciousness. She wasn't sure which. Tobias glanced back from the front passenger seat. He'll heal. Shifter metabolism is remarkable. By tomorrow, most of those wounds will be closed. That's impossible, Owen said, but his voice lacked conviction. He had seen too much tonight to cling to impossible. The drive took 3 hours, winding mountain roads that climbed steadily higher. By the time they pulled up to a sprawling lodge nestled against a cliff face, dawn was breaking over the peaks. The lodge was beautiful, all timber and stone, with floor-to-ceiling windows that looked out over a valley, but Hazel barely noticed the view. She was focused on getting Dominic inside, on making sure he received proper care. A woman waited at the entrance, older, perhaps 60, with silver-streaked hair and sharp eyes. Bring him to the medical room. I've prepared everything. They carried Dominic through the lodge to a room that had been converted into a fully equipped clinic. The woman, who introduced herself as Dr. Reeves, immediately began examining his wounds. Silver poisoning, she announced after a moment. Not severe, but present. Who treated him in the field? No one, Tobias admitted. We were focused on extraction. Dr. Reeves made a disapproving sound and began pulling supplies from cabinets. All of you out except the girl. I need space to work. I should stay, Tobias protested. You should follow orders. Out. Reluctantly, Tobias and Owen left. Hazel remained, hovering uncertainly by the door. Don't just stand there, Dr. Reeves said. Make yourself useful. I need you to hold pressure on this wound while I prepare the silver extractant. Hazel moved to the table, pressing gauze against the gash on Dominic's ribs as instructed. This close, she could see the slight silver tinge to the blood, the way his skin around the wounds looked inflamed in a way that seemed wrong. Silver is poison to us, Dr. Reeves explained as she worked. It prevents our natural healing, can kill us if there's too much in the bloodstream. Someone used silver-coated claws on him. Unusual. Most shifters avoid silver weapons because of the taboo. Victoria's people aren't bound by normal rules. Hazel said. Clearly. Doctor. Reeves injected something into Dominic's arm, and almost immediately, his breathing eased. This will help his body purge the silver. He'll be unconscious for several hours while it works. But he'll be okay? He'll live, if that's what you're asking. Whether he'll be okay is a more complicated question. The Alpha King has many enemies, and apparently one very determined one. She glanced at Hazel. You're the photographer. I am. The one who posted the video. Yes. Doctor. Reeves studied her for a moment. You know he hasn't taken a mate in all his years as Alpha King. Considered it too dangerous. Too much of a vulnerability. And then you appear, and within days, he's making decisions based on protecting you rather than strategic advantage. That's the behavior of a mated wolf, even if the bond hasn't been formalized. Hazel felt her cheeks warm. I don't think... We're not. You don't have to explain yourself to me. I'm just an old wolf who's seen a lot in her years. And what I see here is an alpha who's found his mate, whether he wants to admit it or not. She finished bandaging Dominic's wounds. You can stay with him if you like. He'll rest easier sensing you nearby. After Dr. Reeves left, Hazel pulled a chair close to the medical table and sat. Dominic looked younger in sleep. The harsh lines of command smoothed away. She found herself studying his face, the strong features, the dark hair falling across his forehead. He had killed for her. Multiple times. Had been poisoned and nearly died protecting her. And according to Dr. Reeves, he was doing all of it because of some kind of mate bond that Hazel barely understood. She reached out and carefully pushed the hair back from his face. His eyes opened slightly, unfocused. Hazel? I'm here. You're safe. Rest. Victoria. Can wait. You did what you needed to do. Now let yourself heal. His hand found hers again, and he held on as if she were an anchor. Within moments, he had slipped back into unconsciousness. Hazel sat with him as the sun rose higher, as the lodge came to life around them with the sounds of people preparing defenses and making plans. She sat with him and wondered how her life had become this, holding the hand of a werewolf king while enemies gathered in the darkness. And she wondered what would happen when he woke, when they had to face Victoria's next move. Because there would be a next move. People like Victoria didn't give up. They pushed until something broke. Hazel just hoped it wouldn't be them. Chapter 7. Challenge and Claiming. Dominic woke 36 hours later, his wounds reduced to pink scars that would fade within days. Hazel had stayed close, sleeping in shifts with Owen, both of them refusing to leave the lodge even as Tobias coordinated defensive preparations around the property. The first thing Dominic did upon waking was call a meeting of the Continental Pack Alliance Council. Within hours, the lodge's great room was filled with holographic displays showing the faces of 6 regional alphas, all of them looking grim. Hazel and Owen watched from the doorway as Dominic addressed them, his voice carrying the weight of command. Victoria Brennan has committed acts of war against the Alliance, he said. She has attacked multiple Pack territories, assassinated Alliance members, and violated the sanctuary of a king's residence. Under Pack law, these actions demand response. One of the alphas, a woman with severe features, spoke. What response do you propose, Alpha King? Victoria has 40 trained mercenaries and the backing of 3 European packs. A direct assault would be costly. I'm not proposing an assault, Dominic said. I'm proposing a challenge. Single combat, traditional rules. Victoria gets what she wants, a chance to claim the position of Alpha King. And I get the opportunity to end this without more of our people dying. The room erupted in protests, multiple alphas speaking over each other. Tobias stepped forward, his expression alarmed. Sir, with respect, you're still healing. Silver poisoning takes time to fully clear the system. Fighting Victoria now would be necessary, Dominic interrupted. She won't stop until she's defeated me or I've defeated her. This way, we contain the damage. Another alpha, older with gray in his beard, spoke carefully. And if you lose, if Victoria becomes Alpha King, then the Alliance will have a different leader, and you'll decide whether to follow her or fracture into independent packs. But I won't lose. The certainty in his voice left no room for argument. After more discussion, the council agreed. The challenge would be issued formally, with the fight taking place in neutral territory in 5 days. After the meeting ended and the holograms faded, Hazel confronted Dominic in the hallway outside the great room. "You're going to fight her. Alone. Yes. That's suicide. You said yourself she's been training her whole life for combat. So have I. Dominic." "Hazel." He caught her arm gently, stopping her. "This is the only way. If I don't challenge her, she'll keep attacking until she's destroyed everything I've built. More people will die. Your brother might die. You might die. I can't allow that. So you're going to risk your life instead? That's what being Alpha King means. Putting yourself between your people and danger." "I'm not your people," Hazel said, her voice breaking slightly. "I'm just a photographer who made a stupid mistake." Dominic's expression softened. "You're more than that. You have been since the moment I met you." Before she could respond, before she could ask what he meant by that, Owen appeared at the end of the hallway. "Sorry to interrupt, but Dr. Reeves says Hazel needs to eat something. Apparently, stress and adrenaline aren't sufficient nutrition." The moment broke. Dominic released her arm and stepped back. "She's right. Go. We'll talk more later." But later never came. The next 4 days were consumed with preparation. Dominic trained constantly, pushing his healing body to its limits. Hazel watched from the windows as he sparred with Tobias and other guards, his wolf form moving with lethal grace. "Doctor." Reeves pulled her aside on the 3rd day. "He's going to ask you to be there, at the challenge. Why would I want to watch him fight? Because if he's fighting for you, which he is, whether he's admitted it or not, your presence will make him stronger. Mate bonds work both ways. You'll ground him, give him something to fight for beyond duty." "We're not mated," Hazel protested. "Not formally, but the bond is forming whether you've acknowledged it or not. I can see it in how he moves when you're near, how his wolf settles, and I suspect you feel it too, don't you? That pull toward him, that certainty that he's important in a way you can't explain." Hazel wanted to deny it, but the words stuck in her throat, because Dr. Reeves was right. She did feel something, a connection that had nothing to do with gratitude or proximity, something deeper. On the 4th night, Dominic found her on the lodge's back deck, staring out at the mountains silhouetted against a star-filled sky. "Can't sleep?" he asked, joining her at the railing. "Too much on my mind." "Understandable." He was quiet for a moment. "I want you to come tomorrow, to the challenge. Dr. Reeves said you'd ask." "She's perceptive." He turned to look at her. "I know it will be difficult to watch. But Hazel, I need you there. Not because I doubt my ability to win, but because having you present will remind me why I'm fighting in the first place. To protect the Alliance," Hazel said. "To protect you." His voice was low, intense. "Everything else is secondary." Her breath caught. "Dominic, I know this is complicated. I know you never asked to be part of this world, to be connected to me. But you are, and I'm not sorry about that. Even if it makes everything harder, even if it puts you in danger, I'm not sorry." Before she could respond, he continued, "There's something I need to do before the challenge. A ritual, if you'll accept it." "What kind of ritual?" "The claiming bite. It's how shifters formalize a mate bond. I would mark you, and in doing so, tie my strength to yours. It would offer you some protection, make you recognizably mine to any shifter who encountered you, and it would give me access to power I don't normally have, the kind that comes from fighting for a bonded mate." "Larry." Hazel's heart was racing. "You're asking me to become your mate. I'm asking if you'd be willing to accept a claiming mark. The bond itself, the full mate connection, that forms over time. But the mark would begin the process. And more than that, it would keep you safer. And if you lose tomorrow, if Victoria kills you, then the mark would fade, and you'd be free. But I won't lose." Hazel studied his face in the starlight. This man, this impossible being who could become a wolf, who commanded armies and fought wars in the shadows of the human world. He was offering her something she didn't fully understand, asking her to trust him with a permanence that terrified her. But he had also protected her, repeatedly risked his life for hers. and shown her a world that existed beyond anything she had imagined. "If I agree," she said slowly, "if I accept this claiming mark, what does it actually mean? What am I committing to? Connection, the ability to sense each other's emotions at close range, to find each other more easily, and eventually, if we both choose it, a full mate bond that would tie our lives together. That sounds intense." "It is, and I won't pretend otherwise. But Hazel, I've waited 34 years without finding someone who made me want this. And then you appeared, and everything changed." She thought about the past week, the chaos and violence, but also the moments of connection, the way he looked at her, the way her body responded to his presence, the feeling that despite the insanity of everything, this felt right. "Okay," she whispered. "I accept." Dominic's eyes flared with something fierce and possessive. "Are you certain? Once it's done, other shifters will know you're claimed. It will make you a target for anyone who wants to hurt me. I'm already a target. At least this way, I'm a target with a fighting chance." He stepped closer, his hand coming up to cup her face. "This will hurt for a moment. The bite needs to break skin for the mark to take. But I'll be as gentle as I can." Hazel nodded, her pulse thundering. Dominic tilted her head slightly, exposing the junction between her neck and shoulder. She felt his breath against her skin, warm and steady. Then his teeth sank in, and fire raced through her veins. It was not pain exactly. Or not just pain. It was like being branded and blessed simultaneously, a mark that burned itself into her on a level deeper than physical. She gasped, her fingers clutching at his shoulders, and then it was done. Dominic pulled back, his eyes glowing faintly silver. On her skin, she could feel the mark, warm and raised slightly. When she looked down, she saw it. A pattern that looked almost like a wolf's paw print, etched into her skin in what appeared to be silver ink. "That's beautiful," she breathed. "It's you," Dominic said. "Every claiming mark is unique to the mated pair. This one reflects both of us." The mark pulsed gently, and through it, Hazel felt something new. Dominic's emotions, faint but present, determination, protectiveness, and something warmer, something that felt like affection, deepened into something more. "I can feel you," she said wonderingly. "And I you. It will grow stronger over time, especially after tomorrow, when you defeat Victoria. When I defeat Victoria," he confirmed. They stood together on the deck as the night deepened, connected now in a way that transcended words. Hazel felt the weight of what she had accepted, but also a strange sense of rightness, as if this was always where she was meant to end up, despite the impossible circumstances that had brought her here. The next morning, they traveled to the neutral ground, a clearing deep in protected territory, where pack law prevented interference. Representatives from a dozen packs had gathered to witness the challenge, along with the 6 council alphas who would judge the outcome. Victoria was already there, and seeing her in person for the first time, Hazel understood why she was so dangerous. The woman was tall and muscled, with cold eyes and a smile that held no warmth. She looked at Dominic the way a predator looked at prey. Then her eyes found Hazel, and the smile widened. "So, this is the little human who started all of this. How sweet that you've brought her to watch you die, Vale." "I'm not going to die," Dominic said calmly. "But you are, if you continue down this path. Yield now, accept exile, and live. Keep fighting, and I'll make sure you don't walk away from this clearing." Victoria laughed. Big words from a wolf who's been poisoned and wounded repeatedly in the past week. "I can smell the silver still in your blood. Then you should know how much I've survived already. What makes you think you'll succeed where others have failed? Because I'm better than them. Better than you." The challenge began at noon. Both fighters stripped to shift, and Hazel forced herself to watch as Dominic became the massive black wolf she had seen before. Victoria shifted as well, her wolf form slightly smaller but scarred and clearly experienced. They circled each other, and then Victoria lunged. The fight was brutal. Both wolves moved with speed that seemed impossible, clashing and breaking apart, teeth and claws drawing blood. Victoria fought dirty, going for vulnerable spots, using tactics that made the watching alphas murmur in disapproval. But Dominic was stronger. Every time Victoria thought she had an opening, he countered, using her momentum against her. Hazel watched, her hand pressed against the claiming mark, feeling echoes of his determination through the bond. Then Victoria made a mistake. She overextended on a lunge, and Dominic caught her throat in his jaws. He could have killed her then, could have ended it. Instead, he threw her back, giving her a chance to yield. Victoria spat blood and shifted back to human form. "Kill me or let me go, but don't insult me with mercy." "This isn't mercy," Dominic said, also shifting. "This is the last chance you'll ever get. Yield, accept exile, and live. Continue, and I will kill you." Victoria's eyes burned with hatred. Then she reached for something hidden in her discarded clothes, a blade, silver-coated and cruel. She lunged at Hazel. Everything happened fast. Dominic shifted mid-leap, trying to intercept. Tobias moved from the sidelines, and Hazel, acting on instinct, ducked and rolled, the blade missing her by inches. Victoria stumbled off balance. Dominic hit her at full force, and this time he did not hold back. His jaws closed on her neck, and Victoria went still. The clearing was silent. Then one of the council alphas spoke. "The challenge is decided. Dominic Vale remains Alpha King." Victoria's body was removed, and slowly, the gathered shifters began to disperse. Hazel sat in the grass, shaking with adrenaline, as Dominic returned to her side. "Are you hurt?" he asked urgently. "No, you stopped her." "I almost didn't." "If you hadn't moved when you did," he pulled her close, and she felt his heart hammering against her cheek. "I could have lost you, but you didn't. We're both here." Through the claiming mark, she felt his emotions crash over her. Relief, gratitude, and love, fierce and undeniable. Chapter 8. New Beginnings. 6 months had rewritten Hazel's understanding of normal. Mornings now began in the kitchen of the estate that had become home, with coffee cooling on polished stone, while Dominic skimmed council briefs, and Owen darted through on his way between Shadowpine and campus. The Alpha King's days were carved up by negotiations and territory disputes, handled from the secure offices in the East Wing. Hazel's were filled with memory instead of escape. She still worked behind a camera, but the assignments had changed. Winter ceremonies in snowbound northern forests, oaths sworn beneath ancient oaks, quiet moments in packhouses where humans would never be invited. What had started as a viral accident had turned her into the Alliance's unofficial chronicler, her images already being passed, quietly, as a fantasy photography series in the human world. After Dominic left for a council session and Owen for his presentation, she settled in the sunroom with her laptop, losing herself for hours in the familiar rhythm of culling and editing until the screens were filled with wolves in motion and candle-lit dances. All of it real, and all of it hidden from the wider world. Around noon, Tobias knocked on the sunroom door. "Miss Morrison, sorry to interrupt, but there's someone here to see you." "Who?" "A representative from 3 packs that joined the Alliance after Victoria's defeat. They heard about your photography work and want to commission documentation for their own histories." Hazel saved her work and followed Tobias to the main office. 3 shifters waited there, 2 men and a woman, all of them watching her with a mixture of curiosity and respect. The claiming mark on her neck, visible above her collar, identified her immediately as the Alpha King's mate. The meeting lasted an hour, and by the end, Hazel had agreed to visit their territories over the next 2 months to photograph their ceremonies and daily life. It was work she had never imagined doing, but it felt important. She was helping preserve a culture that had existed in shadows for centuries. When the representatives left, Dominic found her in the office, reviewing her schedule. 3 more packs, he said, reading over her shoulder. "You're becoming quite sought after." "It's strange. 6 months ago, I was just a freelance photographer hoping to pay rent. Now I'm documenting a secret society of werewolves. Does it bother you that your life changed so completely?" Hazel thought about it. "Sometimes. I miss the simplicity of my old life, but then I remember that the old life was also lonely. I had my work, and Owen, but not much else." Now I have purpose, community. I have you. Dominic's arms came around her from behind, and she leaned back against him. I know I've asked a lot of you, pulled you into a world that can be dangerous and demanding. You've also given me a lot. A home, a place where I belong, work that matters. She turned in his arms to face him. I wouldn't change it. His eyes searched hers. Not even the parts that were terrifying? Not even those. They brought me here. He kissed her then, gentle and deep, and through the bond, she felt his love wash over her like warmth. That evening, as they prepared dinner together, a comfortable routine they had fallen into, Hazel felt the now familiar flutter in her stomach. It had started 3 weeks ago, subtle enough that she had dismissed it as stress or indigestion. But this morning, when Dr. Reeves had done a routine checkup, the truth had become undeniable. She was pregnant. Dr. Reeves had explained that children between humans and shifters were rare but not unheard of. The baby would likely inherit some shifter traits, though how much was impossible to predict. She had also emphasized that Hazel needed to tell Dominic soon, as the pregnancy would affect the mate bond, and he would sense it eventually. You're quiet tonight, Dominic observed, chopping vegetables for the salad. Just thinking. About? Hazel set down the spoon she had been stirring with and turned to face him. I have something to tell you. Something important. Dominic's expression grew serious. What is it? Are you okay? I'm fine. More than fine, actually. She took a breath. I'm pregnant. The knife clattered to the cutting board. Dominic stared at her, his expression cycling through shock, disbelief, and then something that looked like wonder. You're certain? Dr. Reeves confirmed it this morning, about 6 weeks along. 6 weeks. He crossed to her in 2 strides, his hands coming up to frame her face. We're going to have a child. Are you okay with that? I know we haven't really discussed it, and with everything that's happened. Hazel. He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. I'm more than okay with it. I'm overwhelmed, terrified, and happier than I have words for. Through the bond, she felt the truth of it, the fierce joy and protective instinct that flared in him. Dr. Reeves said the baby will probably have some shifter traits, Hazel said. She called it a hybrid presentation. We won't know how much until after the birth, but there's a chance our child could shift. That's incredible, and completely unprecedented at the Alpha King level. The last hybrid birth in a royal line was 3 generations ago. Is that going to cause problems? With the packs? With the Alliance? It might cause some discussion, but nothing we can't handle. The Alliance has been stable since Victoria's death. Most packs are thriving under the new peace. A royal hybrid heir would be seen as a symbol of a new era, one that's more inclusive. Hazel relaxed slightly. She had been worried about the political implications, but Dominic's confidence reassured her. They finished making dinner, though the conversation had shifted entirely to the pregnancy, what it would mean, how they would prepare. Dominic was already planning nursery locations and security enhancements, his protective instincts in overdrive. Later that night, as they lay in bed, Dominic's hand rested on her stomach, which was still flat, but wouldn't be for much longer. Thank you, he said quietly. For what? For accepting the claiming mark. For staying when you could have run. For giving me this, a family I never thought I'd have. You gave me a family too, Hazel said. The Pax, Owen being safe and accepted, this life we're building. That's not nothing. It's everything. She felt him smile against her shoulder, and through the bond, his contentment wrapped around her. The next morning, Owen called with news that he had aced his presentation. Hazel told him about the pregnancy, and his reaction was a mixture of excitement and the kind of protective big brother energy that made her laugh. I'm going to be an uncle, he said, sounding dazed. To a werewolf baby. My life is so weird now. You love it. I really do, he admitted. But seriously, Hazel, I'm happy for you. You and Dominic, you're good together. And you're going to be great parents. After they hung up, Hazel walked out to the back patio, where Dominic was in a meeting with Tobias and 2 other senior pack members. When he saw her, his expression softened, and he excused himself. Everything okay? Everything's perfect, Hazel said. I told Owen. He's excited. Of course he is. He'll be the favorite uncle. They stood together, looking out over the forest that had become their sanctuary. In the distance, Hazel could hear Howls, the pack communicating across the territory. 6 months ago, those sounds would have frightened her. Now they were as familiar as breathing. I was thinking, Dominic said, that we should take you to meet the northern packs before you get too far along to travel. They'll want to pay respects to the future heir. That sounds diplomatic. It is. But it's also a chance for you to see more of our world. The good parts. The celebrations and traditions. The ways packs come together in peace. I'd like that. A wolf pup, one of the young shifters from a pack staying on the property temporarily, bounded across the lawn toward them. It was small and gray, with oversized paws it hadn't grown into yet. When it reached them, it shifted into a little girl of maybe 6, grinning up at Hazel. "Can you take my picture?" the girl asked shyly. Hazel crouched down to her level. "Of course. Go stand by those flowers and I'll get my camera." The girl ran off happily, and Dominic helped Hazel stand again, his hand lingering on the small of her back. "You're going to be amazing at this," he said. "At photography?" "At all of it. Being Luna Queen, being a mother, being the bridge between worlds." Hazel looked up at him. At this man who had changed everything. "We both are." The sun climbed higher, warming the estate as pack members went about their day. Hazel retrieved her camera and spent the afternoon photographing the visiting families, capturing moments of joy and normalcy. These images would never be posted publicly, but they would be treasured by the packs. Evidence that their lives and culture mattered. As evening approached, Hazel and Dominic stood on the patio once more, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and pink. Her hand rested on her stomach, over the life growing inside her. His arm was around her shoulders, solid and sure. In the forest, wolves began their evening songs, welcoming the night. And Hazel, who had once recorded those sounds out of curiosity, now understood every note, every meaning. From somewhere beyond the tree line came a burst of laughter she recognized as Owen's, carried on the cooling air from the clearing, where he had been helping a group of younger wolves set up targets for training. Soon he would be back on campus, splitting his days between lectures and the research trips he and Dr. Reeves had planned to Shadowpine. But Hazel knew that what they had rebuilt here would not unravel just because there was distance between visits. The baby was still only a quiet secret, measured in a handful of weeks, in bouts of morning nausea and the soft rustle of ultrasound printouts tucked into her journal, but it was already redrawing the edges of every future she dared to imagine. She had found her place in an impossible world, and she had found home. The end.